Hello. For the making of this guide, I decided to use some sort of annoying bot voice. The usual text with picture editing I generally do is really time-consuming, so I ended up using some bot for the voiceover. This is actually the second time I redo this video, adding some correction and clarification. I will not teach you how to use Lance. This is a weapon with multiple possibility in playstyle, such as evade lancing and guard lancing. I will focus only on the most misunderstood switch skill of the weapon, and maybe the most misunderstood in the whole game. Twin Vine. This guide will have various video clip, demonstrating some of the point I was explaining. In Base Rise, I was already using this skill, not permanently, but quite regularly. It was already a good skill, but the cost was not worth the sacrifice, and it was only really useful against a very few selection of target. With Sunbreak, this skill got a massive buff, and it's usable permanently. The wire cost went down from 2 to 1. The skill application is now faster and the range is slightly better. I still have some doubt about the range, after so many use in the base game. Even if the application is faster, this is still one of the biggest downside of this skill. Another benefit is that this skill boosts your guard level. However, the buff is quite unclear, and since the last time I posted this video I did a lot of test around it, and there's something I can confirm about the guard level boost. A bit about it later. One question is, for whom Twin Vine really is? When it come for evade lancing, you won't gain much from it, outside of the gap closer and the mobility that the skill provide, so you don't be able to use his full potential if you are an evade lancing user. Now when it come to guard lancing, we actually got two type of guard lance. The most popular one is indeed the one using insta-block cross sweep, which is also the strongest of all lance playstyle. I personally don't like it. Well, after some days of testing with it, all I can say Twin Vine is the same as evade lancing with it. Just slightly better than with evade lancing. Evade lancing can now use evade extender level 2 or 3 without the DPS loss from base rise, due to the new shield dash skill. And last, the Boomer Lance. The classic Guard 1. The one who use Guard 3 or Guard 5. Which is a near extinct species, such I am. Well, this is where Twin Vine truly shine. In other words, if you are one of the classic Guard Lance user, this guide is for you. If not, you can just stay out for curiosity. Or go play Final Fantasy XIV. Let's start with the basic. Twin Vine got 2 attack, first the aerial shield bash and the aerial poke. I won't talk about the second attack, since this one is easy to use and you will always want to use it after the shield bash, unless the monster is running away and you want to try to stop it, or when you can't really hit the head with the shield during a gap closer. The shield attack, however, is a bit harder to use and got some nuance. The training dummy is a good way to understand how it works. Let's say that Twin Vine is applied on his center, and head position is high. If you are very close and use the gap closer, you will get nothing but a fast jump, perfectly useless and unsafe, the same if you are at 1 back hop distance, so don't use it at this range. If you are at like 2 back hop distance and use the gap closer, you will end up with some sort of double jump. And if you press guard, you will end up hitting his head with the shield, following with a guard dash on the ground. If you press X or Hey after the aerial shield attack, you will follow with the jumping thrust. And if you press the guard button after the aerial shield attack, as soon as you hit the ground you will stop. The best option really depend on the situation, but from my experience the jumping thrust or the stop are my most used option by a large margin. Using reverse wide sweep is also a very good choice. You can also use the jumping thrust right before you hit the ground. This option is very good but quite hard to use properly. Now if you are too far, doing the gap closer will just get you close. No double jump. The double jump will only happen if you are at some distance, so this is something to take in consideration. Before I dive deeper in the subject, I will talk about the two biggest downside of this skill. First, if you use dash attack, do not use the gap closer when the monster is attacking. With dash attack you only have one option with it, which is attacking. The aerial guard is unavailable with the dash attack. And since the main purpose of Twin Vine is to give you insane mobility, and dash attack is another very good mobility tool, you don't really need both. Second, and this one is way more dangerous if not handled correctly. If the target is on the upper side of a ledge, do not use the gap closer at any cost if the monster is attacking. The aerial guard will have no value and it won't work, ending up of getting hit. If the monster is on the lower side of a ledge, you are fine. Now let's talk about two interesting behavior of Twin Vine. Remember when I was talking about the boost for the guard skill? Yes, Twin Vine actually boost your guard level. Meaning that using guard 5 is useless since there's nothing to gain from it. Well, after more testing I can confirm that this is absolutely wrong. Twin Vine actually do boost the guard level past 5. The video clip is a good demonstration of what I mean. And I tested it several times. Another interesting thing that can have his use, Twin Vine is the fastest way to get a block after a motion, even faster than the shield tackle, the counter or any form of ground guard. This one is a very niche use but it can really save you. The misinformation I heard the most about this skill is how your hunter behave with it. That you will always go for the center of the target. This is actually quite wrong and way more complicated. There's 4 things to take in the equation. First, the monster part where the skill is applied. Second, the distance between you and the monster. Third, the distance between you and the part of the monster that got the skill applied. Fourth, the relative position of the part of the monster that got the skill applied at the moment you use the gap closer. So let's talk about the 4 point. The first one is quite easy. The best application for it is always on the head. Since the main purpose for the gap closer is to use the aerial shield attack offensively, and since this move deals stun damage, it's logic that your main aim should be the head, always. The second and the third one. About the distance between you and the monster. If you are quite far from the target, yes, you will aim at his center, most of the time. But to closest you are from the target part, the more you will drift. For example, you are against Tigrex. The silk skill is applied on his right arm. If you are far and use the gap closer, you will very likely end up hitting the head with a very slight drift toward the left, so no problem here. Now if you were quite close, from like 1 to 3 back hop, you will drift toward the arm and not the middle, unless his head was on the direct path of your movement. Now let's say that the silk skill was applied on the head, and you distance is around 1 to 3 back hop from him, and that Tigrex uses raw, meaning that his head was quite high in position. Using the silk skill at this point is a guaranteed aerial shield bash on his head. And finally the 4th point, and this one is by very far the hardest to control. Rathian is the perfect example for it. Twin Vine is applied on the head. And you are at medium to far distance from her, now since her head changed position during this attack between low and high. If you did the gap closer when his head was on the lower position during the attack, you will very likely end up hitting his feet. If however you did the gap closer when his head was on the highest position, you will very likely end up overshooting her, especially if you were far. So the best moment to use the gap closer in this situation was right after Rathian was done with the backflip. Most of the time you will end up hitting the head. If you want some good practice target, Rathian and Magna Marlowe are good target. Anyway, I'm done with this guide. I hope. Thanks for watching.